My daughter laughed and said, "My mother-in-law achieved everything on her own, completely different from you." I replied, "Then from now on, I'll stop paying your bills. Let's see how much she helps you." She froze for a second, then asked, "What bills, Mom?" I sat on my usual chair, the one with the worn-out cushion that Larissa never bothered to replace my hands, trembling as I held a glass of water. On the table sat the white dinnerware set I had given her 10 years earlier, at her own wedding. The smell of garlic and tomatoes drifted from the kitchen, but my stomach was empty. I wasn't hungry, only choked by a lump that rose to my throat. Larissa sat across from me, smiling with that half smirk I knew too well, the same one she used as a child whenever she thought she'd won an argument. Next to her, her husband, Michael, stared down at his plate as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world. My 2 grandchildren, Kyle and Julia, were glued to their climb phones, completely unaware of how heavy the air in the room had become. Then Larissa said, in a tone full of condescension, "You need to understand something, Mom. Eileen built everything by herself. She started her company from nothing, travels the world, raised Michael well. She's not like you, depending on Dad and later, just existing. Just existing." Those 2 words echoed in my head like a sound falling into a deep pit. My face burned, my eyes stung, but I didn't cry, not in front of her. Not after everything I had done. I took a slow breath, counted silently to 3, and spoke calm, cold, as if awakening from a long sleep. "I understand." I placed my napkin on the table slowly, deliberately. "If Eileen is that capable, then let her help you from now on." Larissa frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I'm going to stop paying your bills." My words landed firmly, each one hitting like a stone thrown into still water. Tuition for the kids, the car loan, health insurance, gym membership, mortgage, everything. Let Eileen help you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Michael looked up, eyes wide. Kyle set down his phone. Julia stared at me, suddenly sensing something serious had just shifted. And Larissa, her face went pale. "Mom," she swallowed hard, "what bills are you talking about? What bills?" That question was the final drop that overflowed the glass. My 45-year-old daughter with a degree, a husband, 2 teenage kids, had no idea how many things I had quietly carried for her all these years. She had no clue about the weight I bore, month after month, while she praised her mother-in-law and looked down on her own mother. I stood up slowly, picked up my old brown leather purse, the one that had followed me through the years, worn but reliable, just like me. I looked straight into Larissa's eyes. There was no anger there, only disappointment, and something she hadn't yet recognized. Resolve. "You'll find out," I said softly, each word heavy as stone. "Ask the bank, or ask Eileen." I left the apartment without looking back. My footsteps echoed down the hallway, steady, firm. As the elevator doors closed, I could still hear Larissa calling after me, "Mom, wait." But I didn't wait. Not this time. That night, driving back to my own house, the one I built brick by brick, with my own sweat, I realized something. Being invisible doesn't mean being weak. And when an invisible woman finally decides to speak, the whole world trembles. My name is Anne. I'm 68 years old. My hands are calloused from a lifetime of work, but my heart, though scarred, still beats strong. That dinner conversation wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. For 20 years, I had built castles so my daughter could live in them, never noticing I was the foundation beneath her feet. Do you want to know why Larissa's words hurt me so deeply? Because my daughter never truly knew who I was. No one did. I had become so quiet in my sacrifices that even my own child thought I merely existed. Let me tell you the truth. I was 35 when my husband Daniel died. Larissa was 12. That morning it drizzled, the kind of day that warns you something bad is coming. He left early to make a delivery. We owned a small stationery shop in the northern part of the city. It wasn't much, but it was ours. 2 hours later, I got the phone call that split my life in half. Accident. The truck's brakes failed. Daniel didn't make it. I still remember the funeral-closed casket, the heavy smell of white flowers, Larissa clinging to me and soaking the black dress I wore. I just stood there, unable to cry. Not because I didn't want to, but because I feared that if I started, I'd never stop. People looked at me with pity. Poor Anne. How will she survive? A single woman with a child, no real profession. No profession, as if running a home, raising a child, and keeping a business alive weren't work. A week after the funeral, Daniel's accountant came by with a folder. Debts, overdue rent, unpaid invoices. I stared at the red numbers. Negative $34,800. And I thought, either collapse or rise. I rose. I took over the shop. I learned how to negotiate with suppliers, how to build spreadsheets, how to wake up at 5 a.m., to check inventory before Larissa got up for school. My hands toughened from carrying boxes. My back ached constantly, but I didn't stop. Why? Because I'd look at my daughter in her school uniform, eating breakfast, and think, she'll have a better life than I did. She'll make it further. And she did, or at least, I thought she did. When Larissa said she wanted to study business administration, I didn't hesitate. Tuition was $1,780 a month for 4 years. I calculated over $85,000. Total, far beyond what I had saved. But I agreed. I worked twice as hard. I turned our small shop into a distribution company, signing contracts with schools in the area. I stayed up nights preparing bids and quotes. I refused outings, vacations, and every small joy. My life was Larissa. I was there at her graduation, sitting in the last row, wearing my old navy blue dress. I cried out of pride, exhaustion, and relief. 2 years later, she said, "Mom, I need to get my MBA. Everyone at work has one if they want to be promoted. Cost, $42,000. I said, "Go ahead, I'll handle it." And I did somehow. When she married Michael, I paid $120,000 as the down payment on their condo. "You don't have to, Mom," she said, but her eyes sparkled. I hugged her and whispered, "I just want you to start your life debt-free." 3 years later, I bought her a $68,000 car, paid in full. I sold my stocks, emptied my emergency savings, just to see her smile as she held the keys. And through all those years, not once did Larissa ask, "Mom, are you okay? Do you need anything for yourself?" I became the invisible provider, the magic account that paid every bill, and no one ever asked where the money came from, until I stopped. When I finally said no, instead of gratitude, she compared me to her mother-in-law, Eileen, the woman she believed had conquered the world on her own. But the truth about Eileen, that I'll tell you later. Only when I discovered it did everything finally make sense. Eileen. Just hearing that name made my chest tighten, not from envy, at least not at first, but from the bitter sting of being constantly compared to someone who wasn't even in the same race. The first time I heard about her was 3 months after Larissa started dating Michael. She came home, eyes glowing. "Mom, I had lunch at Michael's house today. His mother is amazing." That word amazing rang in my ears like a sharp bell. Not because I was jealous, I told myself, but because there was something in her voice admiration I'd never heard directed at me. "She owns a cosmetics company, Mom Natural Beauty. You've probably seen their products in drugstores." Larissa scrolled through her phone excitedly. "Look, this is their office. Isn't it gorgeous? And she built everything after divorcing Michael's dad, all by herself. All by herself." Those words again. When I first met Eileen at the engagement party, I understood why Larissa idolized her. She walked into the room as if it belonged to her. 64 years old but looking barely 50, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, designer dress, that faint expensive perfume, manicured nails, and discreet yet costly jewelry. Everything about her screamed one message: I made it. And me? I wore my old navy blue dress, carried my scuffed leather purse, and flat shoes because my feet couldn't bear heels after years of standing at work. "You must be Anne," she said, kissing the air near both my cheeks, polite but detached, as if she didn't truly see me. "Larissa talks about you so much. It's lovely to have such a present mother." Present. That word sounded like she meant something else entirely. Time passed. The wedding came and went. Gradually, Eileen took up more space in my daughter's life: weekly lunches, shopping trips, weekend getaways at her beach house in Florida. "Mom, Eileen invited me to a business fair in Chicago," Larissa said over the phone, thrilled. "I'll learn so much about entrepreneurship." Entrepreneurship. As if I hadn't built a business myself. As if turning a failing stationery shop into a profitable distribution company didn't count as entrepreneurship. But I only smiled and said, "That's great, sweetheart. Go." Things truly changed after Kyle and Julia were born. Eileen arrived with lavish gifts: a $4,500 imported crib, designer baby clothes, educational toys that cost more than my mortgage. And me? I bought diapers, medicine, paid the health insurance, the unglamorous things no one posts on Instagram. The lunches at Eileen's house became more frequent. Larissa often came back saying, "Mom, you should see her wine cellar. She has bottles worth $2,000. Or, "She just got back from Paris, stayed at a 5-star hotel with a view of the Eiffel Tower." And hidden in each story was a comparison. Eileen goes to Paris. I stay in my small city. Eileen drinks fine wine. I drink box juice. Eileen wears designer clothes. I mend my old ones. But the worst part wasn't the money or the gifts. It was the poison wrapped in sugar-coated words. "Anne, you work too hard. Don't you ever take vacations?" Eileen asked during a family lunch. "A woman must take care of herself. I always say, if you don't value yourself, no one else will." As if I chose hardship, as if I enjoyed never resting. Another time she smiled faintly and said, "Larissa told me you own a little office supply distribution business. How sweet." I love small family enterprises like that. They have such a charming vibe. Small business. Each word pierced my pride like a needle. The worst part? Larissa never defended me. She laughed along, nodding, as if she truly believed my life was small, unremarkable, unworthy of respect. Until one evening, at dinner at their house 2 years into their marriage, Eileen said something that, in hindsight, should have told me everything. "Larissa, the greatest legacy we can give our children isn't money, it's example. the example of independence, resilience, and self-made success. Larissa looked at me. Just for a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes, shame, maybe disappointment. I couldn't tell, but my heart ached, because I had given her everything: time, money, dreams, my life. And yet, in her mind, shaped by that woman's influence, I hadn't given her the most important thing of all, a role model. What Larissa didn't know was that Eileen's perfect story was a mask glossy on the outside, hollow within. When I uncovered the truth, everything fell into place. Her arrogance, her subtle jabs, her constant need to prove herself, all symptoms of what she was hiding. But back then, I was still the invisible mother dimmed by the fake glow my daughter worshipped. That darkness only lifted when I finally found the strength to turn on the light and reveal what was behind it. Friday morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Like wandering through fog for so long that you forget you're lost until a strong gust of wind blows it all away, and suddenly you can see the road ahead. I had barely slept. All night I replayed every word from that dinner. "She's not like you, Mom." Larissa's voice echoed in my mind like a scratched record. But beneath the pain, another feeling rose, something I hadn't felt in years: anger. Not the wild, shouting kind, but a cold, sharp anger that gives you focus. I got up at 6 a.m., brewed black coffee with no sugar, and sat at the small kitchen table where I'd planned my entire life. I opened my old laptop, the one Larissa always mocked, and logged into my bank account. It was time to face the numbers. I grabbed my notebook and began writing down every expense, every transaction, every automatic payment I'd made over the years. My fingers trembled not from fear, but from fury. Private school tuition for both kids, $3,200 per child. $6,400 total each month for 4 years, $307,200. Family health insurance, $2,180 monthly for 3 years, $78,480. The condo loan I had gifted, $80. Remaining payments of $2,340 each, $187,200 I'd covered. The car, $68,000 paid in full 2 years ago. Condo fees I temporarily helped with right after their wedding, $890 per month for 28 months, $24,920. Groceries I chipped in for whenever they were short, about $800 nearly every month, totaling roughly $25,000. Larissa's gym membership for health reasons, $240 monthly, $8,640. Kyle's English classes, $580 a month, $20,880. Julia's ballet lessons, $420 monthly, $15,120. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the notebook. Altogether, I had paid over $735,000 vanished, as if I were a walking ATM. And Larissa? She didn't even know. What bills, Mom? That question echoed in my head again. I picked up the phone and called the bank. I canceled every automatic payment, every transfer authorization. The clerk asked, "Ma'am, are you sure? This might be a mistake." "I'm sure," I said calmly, without a trace of hesitation. Then I took a shower. The hot water ran down my back, washing away not only the fatigue, but also years of silent endurance. When I stepped out, I looked into the fogged mirror. The 68-year-old woman staring back at me had silver hair. I always found beautiful, though. Larissa kept telling me to dye it wrinkles around her eyes, carved by both laughter and quiet tears, and calloused, strong hands. I'm not invisible, I said to my reflection. I just let people treat me that way. At 10 a.m., I met Teresa at our usual cafe near the distribution company. She had been my friend for over 30 years, since before Daniel passed away. The moment she saw me, she laughed. That face, you either hit the lottery or made a big decision. A big one, I replied, stirring her cappuccino absent-mindedly. Then I told her everything: the dinner, Larissa's words, the money I had poured into their lives, and how I had canceled it all. Teresa went quiet for a second, then burst out laughing. Finally, I thought you'd let that girl drain you dry till the end. I was so stupid, Teresa, stupid for years. No, she said, taking my hand. You were just being a mother. Mothers give everything, every last drop. But at some point, you have to understand giving everything isn't always love. Sometimes, it's self-destruction. That sentence cut right into me. Self-destruction. Exactly. I had raised a daughter who didn't understand the value of anything, who thought everything simply appeared, who disdained her own mother because she never had to fight for anything herself. So what now? Teresa asked. I won't say a word, I said, sipping the bitter coffee. I want to see how long it takes her to realize the faucet's dry. Let's see if she runs to her perfect mother-in-law. Teresa arched an eyebrow, smiling mischievously. This should be entertaining. Yes, I nodded. But this time, I'm not the supporting character. Something new stirred inside me. Not bitterness, not revenge, but justice. It was time to prove to Larissa and to myself that I wasn't the woman who merely existed. I had built a career from nothing, raised my daughter alone, shouldered her dreams, tuition, apartment, car, all with my effort, sweat, and sacrifice. And now I would stop. I wanted to see if that castle could stand when its foundation was gone. Because there's one thing Larissa didn't understand. She had forgotten who had been holding everything together for her. I gave her 3 weeks. 3 weeks until the first bill came due. I'd be there not smug, but believing that sometimes the greatest lesson you can teach someone you love is to let them face their own consequences. 22 days, that's exactly how long it took before the first explosion hit. I was checking inventory at the company when my phone rang. The name flashed on the screen, Larissa. My heart jumped, a reflex only a mother could have when her child calls. I took a deep breath and answered, Mom, something's wrong. What is it? I asked, still jotting down figures in my notebook, pretending to be calm. The school called. They said the kids' tuition is 3 weeks late and there's a penalty fee. Didn't you set up automatic payment? So in her mind, everything was still automatic, as if money just appeared out of thin air. I did, I said, flipping through a shipment record, but I canceled it. The other end went silent. You canceled it? How could you do that without telling me? The same way you compared me to your mother-in-law without warning me, I replied, my voice colder than I expected. Mom, please, this is about the kids. They'll be humiliated if their names are posted at school. My heart clenched at the thought of Kyle, the quiet bookworm, and Julia, the little artist who loved showing off her colorful drawings. For a moment, I almost gave in. But then I remembered Larissa's mocking smile, the years I'd been invisible. Larissa, you're 45. You have a degree, a husband, and 2 teenage children, I said slowly. Tuition is $3,200 per child. You and Michael can't handle $6,400 a month for your own kids? You know we're tight on money, Mom. Michael still owes his mom for the car loan she helped with. I froze. His mom helped? You mean Eileen? Yes, Eileen. She helped us buy the car. With interest, I assume? Larissa hesitated. 5% a month. She said it's to teach us financial responsibility. I laughed a dry, bitter laugh. And what about the tuition, insurance, condo, car, gym? Who do you think paid all that? Me. And I never charged a penny in interest. I never even asked for a thank you. On the other end, Larissa began to cry. Mom, please, don't do this. If we don't pay, the school will hold the kids' records. From now on, I said firmly, you'll do what every grown woman does. Sit down with your husband, go over your expenses, cut what you must, and pay your bills. Or ask your perfect mother-in-law. Eileen won't. Won't what? I interrupted. Nothing. Forget it. But I didn't forget. There was something in her tone I could tell Larissa was hiding something. How many times have you borrowed from her? I asked. That's not relevant. It is. How many? After a few seconds of silence, she sighed. Twice, once to fix the kitchen, once to buy a fridge. And she lent you the money with interest? 5% a month. And you're still paying it off? 6 more months, $10,000 each month. My chest tightened. $60,000 owed to her mother-in-law while I had paid everything and never asked for a thing. Well, then you know what to do, Larissa. Call Eileen, borrow more, learn that financial responsibility she talks about. Mom, please. Her voice trembled. I said nothing. I hung up. I rested my forehead on the desk, trying to breathe. Pain, anger, relief, and guilt swirled together inside me. Then my phone buzzed a message from Larissa. Mom, we need to talk. We can't leave things like this. I didn't reply. That night, Teresa called. So? Has she realized yet? She has. And are you okay? I looked out the window. Outside, life went on. Children, laughing, cars passing by, the world unaware of the quiet storm inside me. I'm okay, I said. I was tired, aching, but at peace, because I had finally laid down a burden that was never mine to carry. Sometimes we love so much that we forget to teach, and teaching it hurts, for both the teacher and the student. But it's necessary. Larissa had to fall to learn how to stand. I didn't expect it to happen so soon. Teresa's cousin, who worked as a waitress in an upscale downtown restaurant, texted me 2 days later. Anne, your daughter's here with that blonde woman from the photo you showed me. They look serious. My stomach twisted. Larissa had gone to Eileen just as I predicted. I texted back, "Can you hear what they're saying?" "I'll try." "Their table's near the counter." I stared at my phone for 20 long minutes. Then, her long message arrived. Noosa, Teresa's cousin, had sharp ears, like a bat. She said, Larissa arrived nervous, ordered a glass of wine, something she only did when she was desperate. Eileen showed up immaculate, as always, hair perfectly styled, sunglasses perched on her head, manicured nails tapping the rim of her Chardonnay glass. The conversation began with small talk. The kids, Michael's job, meaningless chatter. Then Larissa finally gathered her courage. "Eileen, I need to ask you for help," she said, her voice trembling, according to Noosa. "Of course, dear. What is it?" Eileen smiled, that cold, knowing smile of someone who already knows what's coming. My mom cut off all the financial support she used to send us without warning. Now we're drowning in bills. The kids' tuition, credit cards, Michael's car loan, it's about $8,400, and I need to come up with it by Friday. Larissa twisted the napkin in her hands, her despair now quantified in numbers. Eileen took a slow sip of wine, savoring not the flavor, but the moment, the power of being begged. "I see," she said sweetly, too sweetly. "But Larissa, don't you think it's time you two learn to live on your own income? You and Michael are adults." The same words I had once said, but from her lips, they became knives, dripping with contempt. I know. It's just a rough phase. Once Michael gets that promotion." "Larissa," Eileen interrupted, setting her glass down with a sharp clink. "Your mother spoiled you, and now you're paying the price." When I read that part from Noosa's message, I had to sit down. My eyes burned. I spoiled her. I ruined my own daughter. "But you can help me, right? You always say family is everything." "Yes, family is everything." Eileen signaled the waiter for more wine. "But real help isn't giving money, it's teaching responsibility." "Noosa," said Larissa's face fell. Her eyes filled with tears, her hands trembled. "Eileen, please, just $8,400. I promise I'll pay you back." A long silence followed. Eileen pulled a Prada purse from her chair, took out her phone, and tapped for a few seconds that must have felt like hours to Larissa. "All right," she sighed, as if performing a great act of generosity. "I'll transfer $2,000 right now. That's all I can do. I have my own obligations, you understand?" 2,000, when Larissa needed 8,004. "That's it?" Larissa's voice was barely a whisper. "Sweetheart, I have bills too. And investments. I'll need it back in 30 days, with the usual adjustment." Larissa went pale. 5% interest? "Exactly, standard rate, dear. In 30 days, you'll return $2,100. Is that all right?" I had given my daughter hundreds of thousands without ever charging a cent, while that woman lent 2,000 and demanded an extra 100. "I'll try," Larissa said, her voice cracking. According to Noosa, they stayed another 20 minutes. Eileen went on and on about how she built everything from nothing, about independence, about how the world gives nothing for free. Each word pierced my daughter's pride, each phrase a subtle comparison to me. "Your mother sheltered you too much from reality. Now you're learning the hard way," Eileen concluded. She paid the $340 bill just for wine and appetizers with a gold credit card. "But someday, you'll see this is good for you," she said, her tone sugar-coated but venomous. When Noosa finished recounting everything, I sat motionless on the couch for nearly an hour, absorbing it all. Larissa, my daughter, had gone to that woman for help, been humiliated because of me, and left with a mere $2,000, plus interest. I had given everything, expecting nothing but love. And yet that woman stood on a pedestal as the symbol of strength. But something about her excuse bothered me. Eileen claimed her company was restructuring, investing, a convenient excuse not to lend more. I called Teresa. "Teresa, do you still know Morris? That accountant who works with cosmetic companies?" "I do. Why?" "I need you to find something out for me. About Eileen," I explained briefly. "A woman who bragged about wealth and success, yet could only lend $2,000 and charge shark-level interest. Something didn't add up. Anne, what are you planning now?" Teresa laughed over the phone. "Nothing dramatic," I said, looking out the window as the sunset painted the buildings orange. I just want to know who the woman my daughter idolizes really is. I had a feeling, and if I was right, everything was about to change. 2 days later, Teresa called. "Anne, sit down. What I'm about to tell you will shock you. Eileen is a fraud, a perfect illusion." I almost dropped my coffee cup. I was sitting on the old wooden chair on my porch, the afternoon sunlight warm on my face, yet a chill ran straight down my spine. "Start from the beginning." Teresa took a deep breath. "Morris showed me the records. I also spoke with 3 suppliers from Natural Beauty. Anne, that company is drowning in debt, nearly $890,000, just short of $1 million. I froze. How can a company that sells products in every pharmacy end up like that? "Terrible management." Morris said Eileen didn't build a thing. She inherited everything from her father, Arnaldo, owner of 3 cosmetics factories. He died in 2003 and left it all to his only child. I remembered that name. I'd seen the old plaque in Eileen's office, Arnaldo Industries, Est, 1978. I'd never paid attention to it. And then she burned through the entire fortune. Teresa continued. In 2019, Eileen opened 3 luxury boutiques in major malls. The renovation, furniture, and staffing costs ran into hundreds of thousands, but sales were only half of what she projected. "Let me guess," I said quietly. "She shut them all down." "Exactly." In 2022, all 3 stores went bankrupt. She's buried in supplier debt and bank loans. Now she's just juggling new debt to pay the old. I opened my notebook and started jotting down every detail. What about that fancy apartment she lives in? Rented. $3,800 a month, and she's 2 months behind, according to Noosa's friend, who works in real estate. Rented? I was stunned. Yep, and the luxury car still owes $78,000 on it. The designer clothes and jewelry, all on installments. 4 credit cards maxed out, revolving debt around $20,000. I stared into the distance. The image of the perfect woman my daughter had admired shattered in my mind, like a sandcastle swept away by the tide. And that beach house she's always bragging about? Not hers. It belongs to her former sister-in-law. Eileen borrows it whenever the woman's out of town, then posts pictures on Instagram as if it's her own. Every word Teresa said clicked into place. Now I understood why she charged her own son interest, why she could only lend Larissa $2,000, why her glamour always carried that hidden tension. "Teresa, can you print everything for me? Documents, articles, statements, everything. Already emailed them to you. There's a piece from the Economic Journal about her store closures, plus supplier lawsuits." I opened my phone and saw 15 files. I read through each one like I was assembling a classified report. One article from 2022 was titled, "Natural Beauty Shuts Down 3 Luxury Stores After Losing $1.2 million." A photo showed Eileen standing in front of a store, forcing a confident smile. Another file detailed a lawsuit from a supplier demanding $240,000 in unpaid materials. There were even complaints from employees about late wages. "Anne, you still there?" Teresa asked. "I'm here, just processing it all." "What are you going to do?" That question made me pause. My first reaction was anger at the woman who poisoned my daughter's mind, who mocked me, who lived on lies. But then a colder, clearer thought surfaced. "I'll hold on to it," I said, "for now." "Hold on to it? For what?" "Because this information is valuable. and I'll use it when the time is right. Anne, you're plotting something again, aren't you? I don't know if I'd call it a plan. I just know it's time for the truth to be seen. Larissa needs to know who the woman she worships really is. That afternoon, I organized every document into a folder. I divided it into sections: debts, lawsuits, deceptions, facades. Every page was a piece of evidence, every photo an accusation. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop thinking. Eileen had built an entire illusion: successful businesswoman, perfect mother-in-law, and Larissa had believed it completely. But I wasn't doing this for revenge. I was doing it for truth. Because I wanted my daughter to realize that the light she was chasing was nothing but a spotlight. I wanted her to see that I, the woman she looked down on, was the one who had built something real, with strength, honor, and my own 2 hands. The next morning, Larissa texted me, "Mom, I managed to cover half of the tuition. Eileen lent me the rest, and I'll pay it back little by little. The kids won't have to be embarrassed." I read the message 3 times. Eileen lent her the money, as if it were some grand favor, $2,000 with 5% interest. I didn't reply. I just saved the message, another puzzle piece for what was coming next, because I had made up my mind. Very soon, I would invite everyone to dinner: Larissa, Michael, the kids, and Eileen. A dinner where truth would be the main course. There, the masks would fall. The perfect woman would be exposed by facts, by numbers, by documents that couldn't be denied. And I, the invisible mother, would finally show my true worth. Not through yelling, not through rage, but through the light of truth. Because sometimes the deepest revenge isn't noise, it's turning on the light in a dark room and letting everyone see what they've been pretending not to notice. 63 days after that fateful evening, on a Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I was in the kitchen, baking a cornbread cake from my mother's old recipe, the kind with a hint of anise. And I knew dinner was about to begin. The sweet smell of cornbread filled the house. I wiped my hands on my apron and went to open the door, thinking it was Teresa bringing the bromeliad plants she'd promised the day and before. But when I opened it, Larissa was standing there. She looked completely different. Her hair was hastily tied up, her face bare, dark circles under her eyes. Her linen blouse was wrinkled as if she'd slept in it, and in her hands was a bouquet of roses wrapped in silk paper, tied with a gold ribbon, the expensive kind I knew she couldn't afford. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was small, almost a whisper. I stood in the doorway, not inviting her in right away. My heart tightened, the reflex of any mother, but my mind stayed cold, clear. "Mom, can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, her eyes wandering around the house as if it were unfamiliar territory. Strange, really. How many times had she been here in the past few years? 5, 6, and always in a rush. "Hi, Mom, just grabbing a few things. Gotta run." Then the familiar. "See you next week." A week that never came. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the sofa. "Coffee?" "No, thank you." She sat on the edge of the couch, clutching the bouquet like a life raft. "I brought you flowers." I took the bouquet, beautiful, expensive, probably around $180, the kind I knew she couldn't spare. I set it on the table without looking for a vase. "What do you need?" I asked, still standing. "Mom, please sit." I sat across from her, fingers interlaced, waiting. Larissa took a deep breath, staring at the floor, then the ceiling, then her own hands avoiding my eyes. "I came to apologize." About that night, I said things I shouldn't have. I was just tired. I didn't mean it. No, I said coolly. You said exactly what you meant. People slip only when they're tired of pretending, not when they're lying. She looked up, eyes already wet. That's not true, Mom. I was just influenced. Eileen talked so much about how she built everything herself, and I believed her. You believed her, and then you compared me to her. You decided I was lesser, didn't you? No, that's not what It is, Larissa. I leaned forward. You laughed in my face. In front of your husband, your children, you said I'd achieved nothing, that I only existed. A tear rolled down her cheek. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. Silence. The clock ticked steadily. Then I asked, Why are you really here, Larissa? Because you're my mother. And how much do you owe? She froze. The words caught in her throat. I asked, How much do you owe? Her shoulders dropped. About $27,000 over the past 2 months. Details. Mom, is that really neck? Yes. She unlocked her phone with trembling fingers and handed it to me. The screen was filled with red numbers. Tuition, $6,400, 2 months late. Credit card, $4,830, minimum payments only. Car loan, $3,700, 2 installments overdue. Condo fees, $1,780, also 2 months late. Supermarket, $2,010 owed on a store card. And one more line, Eileen Fisher, $2,100. What's this? The money I borrowed from her. $2,000 principal, $100 interest. Due next week. Eileen disappointed you, didn't she? I said, not asked. She was silent. Her eyes said everything. You went begging to her, got humiliated, and left with a few scraps. She even charged you 5% interest as if you were an investment. Mom, she said, her company's struggling, that they're restructuring. I know. She uses that excuse with everyone. I walked into the kitchen and turned off the oven. The cake was done. I let it cool and came back. Larissa, did you come here for money? She lowered her head. I came to apologize. And also, yes, I need help. Mom, the school's about to cancel the kids' enrollment. Kyle's embarrassed he won't even go because his friends asked why he missed the field trip. Julia had to quit ballet because I couldn't pay. My chest tightened. Thinking of those kids made my heart ache, but I couldn't give in, not this time. What do you want me to do? Help me. Just this once, I promise. Promise what? That you'll respect me? That you'll be grateful? That you'll stop comparing me to someone else? Or just until the next time you forget? Mom, I'm not like that. You are. You only remember me when you need something. My voice shook for the first time in our talk. When was the last time you called just to ask how I was, not to ask for money? She said nothing. Answer me, Larissa. When? I don't remember. Exactly. Because it's been too long. I stood up. You're 45, you have an MBA, a job, a husband. Both of you earn good money, yet you can't manage it. You think it was easier for me? I was 35, widowed, with a 12-year-old child and a shop drowning in debt. Mom, I know. No, you don't. You've never known. Do you know how many nights I stayed up calculating bills? How many times I gave up small joys so you could study? How many opportunities, trips, friendships I sacrificed just so you could have what others did? Mom, please stop. I raised my hand. You said Eileen built everything on her own, and I didn't. Then now, Larissa, you build on your own. Alone." Her sobs filled the room. "You want me out on the street? You want my kids to suffer?" I turned to her. "No, I want you to grow up. I want you to learn." "Learn what?" "That nothing falls from the sky. That respect must be earned. That dignity doesn't live in fancy condos or new cars, but in character. In knowing who truly stands by your side." She stayed silent for a moment, then grabbed her purse. "So that's it? You won't help me?" Her voice trembled with a mix of anger and despair. "Good," I said. "Then you'll handle it yourself." "Fine." She walked toward the door, hand on the knob. "You've changed, Mom." "No," I said quietly. "I just stopped being invisible." Then she left. 3.5 months after that painful night, I was ready. I spent an entire week cleaning, scrubbing every corner of the house. I took out my beige linen tablecloth, the one I saved for special occasions. I went to the market to buy fresh ingredients: filet mignon, potatoes, asparagus, and everything I needed for the chocolate dessert my grandkids loved. The total came to $340, money I earned myself, not borrowed from anyone. On Thursday afternoon, I sent a voice message to our family group chat, the one Larissa had created years ago, but had been silent for ages. "Hi everyone. I'm inviting you all to dinner at my house this Saturday at 7 p.m. Larissa, Michael, Kyle, Julia, and Eileen too. I have something important to say. I hope everyone can make it." 10 minutes later, Larissa replied, "Mom, why is Eileen invited?" "You'll understand that night." Michael texted briefly, "We'll be there, Mrs. Ann." Eileen took 2 hours to respond. "What a surprise, dear Ann. Of course, it'll be an honor to attend." An honor. She had no idea what was waiting for her. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., showered, washed my hair, and put on some cream. I wore the black slacks I'd bought 6 months earlier but never used, a white silk blouse, and small earrings. I looked at myself in the mirror. Anne, 68 years old. Silver hair loose, wrinkles around my eyes, but a gaze stronger than ever. "Today is the day it ends," I told my reflection. The house was spotless when they arrived. First came Michael with Kyle and Julia. The kids hugged me tightly. Oh, how I'd missed them. Kyle had grown taller, and Julia had a new haircut. "Grandma, it smells amazing. I made your favorite chocolate cake," I said. Julia grinned, and that smile eased my heart. Larissa arrived next alone. She looked tense, her eyes darting around the room. She greeted me quickly and stood near the sofa, like she might bolt at any second. At 7:15, the doorbell rang. Eileen entered as if she were attending a gala, royal blue dress, high heels, and a cloud of heavy perfume filling the air. Her hair and makeup were flawless, the perfect mask. "Anne, your home is so cozy," she said, glancing around. "You keep things so simple. How charming." "Thank you for coming, Eileen. Please, have a seat." "Dinner's ready." I set the table carefully. Beef fillet and red wine sauce, roasted potatoes, sautéed asparagus, salad, and a bottle of red wine, $120, bought just for tonight. Simple, but elegant. "Wow, Anne, this looks incredible," Michael said sincerely. "Special occasions deserve special preparation." We ate peacefully for about 20 minutes. The kids talked about school, Michael about work, and Eileen rambled about her business trip to Colorado, which was obviously fabricated. I waited. When dessert was served and everyone was praising the cake, I stood up. "I'll make some coffee. Michael, can you grab the envelope on the shelf for me?" He looked confused but did as I asked, bringing out a large, heavy brown envelope. I set it in the middle of the table. The room fell silent. "What is that, Mom?" Larissa asked, her voice shaking. "The truth," I said. I opened the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. "These past few months, I've done what I should have done years ago, looked into everything. I spread the documents across the table. Statements, receipts, expense lists. This one is the record of everything I've paid for you over the past 20 years. Larissa's face turned pale. College $85,000. MBA $42,000. Condo down payment $120,000. Car $68,000. And over the years, tuition, insurance, housing, groceries, I've paid about $735,000. In total," I said slowly, "around $1,050,000. Every penny earned by me through work, savings, and sacrifice, alone." Tears streamed down Larissa's face. Michael stared at the numbers, stunned. "Mom, I didn't know it was that much." "You didn't know because you never asked." I pulled out a few more papers, but the most interesting part is right here. Eileen's eyes stiffened. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. "I'm talking about the truth, Eileen." I laid down another stack of papers. "For years, you've told everyone that you built everything from scratch, that natural beauty was your creation. But the truth is you inherited it all from your father, Arnaldo Fisher. The company, the factories, everything." Her face froze. "And you managed it terribly. Here's the lawsuit, $890,000 owed to suppliers. 3 stores closed with a $1.2 million loss. Employees unpaid, bills piling up." Eileen shot to her feet. "You have no right." "I have every right," I interrupted. "When you've used lies to belittle others." I looked straight at her, my voice calm but sharp as glass. "You poisoned my daughter's mind, made her believe I was worthless because I didn't flaunt wealth, didn't travel to Paris, didn't wear designer clothes." I placed the final sheet on the table. "That apartment you live in, rented, 2 months late on payments. The luxury car, $78,000 still owed. Designer clothes all on. Credit cards, over $12,000 in revolving debt." Each sentence landed like a bomb on the dinner table. "You're not wealthy, Eileen. You're bankrupt, surviving on illusion, charging your own son outrageous interest just to keep up a facade that's already cracking." Her face went white, then red. Her hands trembled. "How dare you speak to me like that?" "I dare because it's the truth." For the first time, my voice rose. "For years, you called me small, dependent, weak. You made my daughter ashamed of her own mother, and all of it was built on a lie." I looked around the table, meeting every gaze. "I didn't inherit anything. I don't owe a cent to anyone. Every dollar I have, I earned. And that, Eileen, is something you'll never be able to say." The air grew thick with tension. Eileen snatched her purse, hands shaking so hard she nearly dropped it. "I won't sit here and listen to this." "That's your choice," I said, gesturing toward the door. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The room fell into an uneasy silence. "Now," I said quietly, turning to Larissa, "you know who truly built everything on her own." After Eileen left, the silence lingered. Kyle and Julia stared at me, eyes wide, not yet able to grasp what they'd witnessed. Michael sat pale-faced, gripping the table edge, staring at the documents like evidence in a trial. And Larissa, my daughter, collapsed into tears, covering her face with both hands. "Grandma." Julia's small, trembling voice broke the silence. "You paid for everything. For us?" I looked at her, 12 years old, brown eyes shimmering. "Yes, sweetheart, I did it because I love you." "But why did we almost never come visit you?" she asked, tears rolling down her soft cheeks. I knelt beside her, holding her little hands. "Because when you love, sometimes you give without expecting anything back. But there's a difference, Julia, between giving out of love and letting others treat you like you're invisible." Kyle, calmer and already sounding grown, asked, "So Grandma Eileen lied about everything?" Michael answered before I could. His voice was heavy with shame. "Yes, son, she lied." He looked at me, eyes glassy. "Mrs. Ann, I swear I didn't know. I really thought my mom was perfect." "I know," I said softly, "but sometimes appearances fool everyone. Your mother built such a flawless image that even you couldn't see the cracks." Michael lowered his head. "I'm sorry. For the way she treated you, for everything she said. I should have stood up for you." "I don't need an apology on her behalf," I said gently, pouring coffee for everyone. The warmth of the cup steadied me. Each of us is responsible for our own actions. Larissa looked up. Her eyes were swollen, her makeup smeared. She looked 10 years older in 10 minutes. "Mom," she rasped. "Altogether, about $1,050,000? Yes, I never thought, never asked where you got the money. I just took it. God, I've been so selfish." I took a deep breath. This was the moment I'd imagined countless times. I could have crushed her with guilt, made her feel the pain I once felt, but I didn't want that. "Sweetheart," I said softly, my voice tired but kind. "I spoiled you. I protected you. I gave you everything. And in doing so, I taught you the wrong lesson that you never had to fight for anything." Larissa sobbed, then knelt before me like she had when she was a little girl. "Mom, I treated you terribly. I said cruel things, looked down on you, while you gave me everything." I placed my hand on her cheek. "You're my daughter. I'd do it all again, but differently. I don't want your money, Larissa. I never did. I only want one thing." "What is it, Mom?" "I want you to grow up. To learn to live on your own income with Michael's, and yours, not mine." Michael stepped forward. "I promise. We'll cut our spending, balance things out, live within our means. I promise." "Good," I nodded. "And one more thing." I went to the kitchen and brought out a piece of paper. "This is an employment contract. I want you to work for me at the distribution company." Larissa read it, eyes wide. $4,800 a month. "Yes, you have an MBA. You're capable. It's time to use it to build something real, not to live off someone else. You'll learn how to run a business, to understand how I turned a small failing shop into a stable company. You'll work, sweat, and feel what it means to earn something yourself." "Mom, I'll do it," she said without hesitation. "When do you start?" "Monday, 7:30 a.m. Michael laughed. "You've never seen Larissa up that early, Mrs. Ann." "Well, you're about to," I replied lightly, then looked at him. "And you, Michael, how's that new position?" "It's confirmed. Starts next month. Comes with a $1,200 raise." "Good. That brings your combined income to nearly $11,000 a month. Not extravagant, but enough for a decent life. It's just about priorities. Larissa nodded, wiping her tears. I promise we'll make it work. Good. I'll help you make a budget. I pulled out my old notebook. We'll plan it line by line. Cut the extras. No gym. Take walks in the park instead. Fewer restaurant meals. Find a good but affordable school for the kids. And that $27,000 debt, you'll pay it down gradually. No more quick loans. Understood, Michael said quietly. Thank you, Grandma, Kyle said, hugging me tightly. Julia ran over and joined him, both of them clinging to me. Grandma, we love you. We're sorry. My heart, tired and scarred, suddenly felt warm again. We all sat and talked late into the night. I brewed more coffee. Larissa helped wash the dishes, something she hadn't done in years. Michael fixed the wobbly chair in the living room. The kids showed me their grades, talked about their dreams. Slowly, my family came back together, not as before, but better, more honest, more real, more loving. They left close to midnight. Larissa was the last one at the door. She looked at me with the same eyes I'd known since the day I first held her. Mom, she whispered, you taught me the biggest lesson of my life today. What lesson is that? That dignity can't be bought, it's built. She hugged me tightly. And that the strongest woman I've ever known was always right in front of me. I just wasn't looking. When the door closed, I sat on the sofa. The house was quiet again, but it was peaceful. I looked at the papers still on the table. The numbers that told my life. Story 1. Of sacrifice, resilience, and love, the kind of love that gives, but also knows when to stop. My phone buzzed a message from Teresa. How did it go? I smiled as I typed back. The end and the beginning. Because that's what it was, not just an ending, but a new start. The end of invisibility, the beginning of respect. 6 months later, I was at the office when Larissa burst in, breathless, holding a folder. Mom, I just signed a supply contract with the state school chain. It's worth $15,000. Pride filled my heart, not because of the money, but because my daughter had achieved it through her own effort. I knew you could do it. She hugged me right there in the warehouse, surrounded by boxes and stacks of notebooks. At that moment, I realized the greatest legacy we can leave behind isn't money, it's example, dignity, and the belief that anyone can build their own success if they have the courage to begin. A year and a half after that fateful dinner, I woke up on a gentle Saturday morning with a calmness I hadn't felt in years, as if the final piece of a long-missing puzzle had just fallen perfectly into place. I brewed myself a cup of black coffee and sat on the porch with my old notebook, but today, not to calculate numbers. I opened it to write. I wrote everything down. That night, the tears, the decisions, the changes. When I finished, there were 12 pages, the raw, true story of my life. The gate creaked open. Larissa walked in, holding a bag of warm bread from the bakery nearby, a Saturday morning ritual the two of us had revived months ago. Good morning, Mom. She kissed my forehead, just like she used to when she was little. I brought white bread, cornbread, and those cream-filled pastries you love. You're spending too much again. Only $23, totally within budget, she said proudly. Oh, and this month we've saved $800 already. I smiled. To some people, $800 might seem small, but for a family that once owed nearly $27,000, it was a victory. And what about the debt? Just $2,100 left. We'll finish paying it off by March, she said, pouring coffee and sitting beside me. Mom, she said softly, Michael and I talked. Once the debt is gone, We're going to start sending you a little money each month. Not much, we can't afford a lot, but $200, just to thank you." My eyes stung. "Sweetheart, I told you that's not necessary." "No, Mom, I need to do it. Not because of the money, but because I want to prove I've changed, that I'm no longer someone who only takes." I couldn't hold back the tears. We hugged on the porch, letting the coffee grow cold and the smell of warm bread fill the air. "You don't owe me anything," I whispered. "You've already repaid me with your growth, your change, and your love." A while later, Michael and the kids arrived. Kyle looked different. He'd earned a scholarship at his new school. It was simpler, but excellent, and the tuition was 30% lower. I looked at my family and felt peace. Finally, I knew. The foundation I had rebuilt was solid again, and it was built on what lasts: love, truth, and dignity. Julia had returned to ballet, but now in a community program sponsored by the city, $50 a month. "Grandma, look," she said, showing me her phone, a picture of her and the other girls, all in leotards, smiling brightly. "We're performing at the City Theater in June. You'll come, right?" "Of course, sweetheart. Front row." "And me too, Grandma," Kyle added, handing me a certificate. "I got second place in the school essay contest. I wrote about you." I held the paper, my hands trembling. His essay read, "My Grandma Ann taught me that strength isn't about never falling, but about standing up every time you do. She lost my grandpa early but never gave up. She built a business on her own, raised my mom, and even when people disrespected her, she never lost her dignity. Now I understand that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear aprons, drive delivery trucks, have silver hair, and calloused hands. My grandma is my hero." I couldn't finish reading. I pulled Kyle into a hug so tight he laughed, half embarrassed, half happy. "Grandma, you're squeezing me. Let me squeeze you just a little more." Michael stepped closer. "Mrs. Ann, I need to tell you something." "I'm listening." "I've cut ties with my mother." The room fell silent. Even the kids stopped scrolling their phones. "Why?" I asked. "After that dinner, I tried talking to her many times. I asked her to admit she'd lied, to change, to seek help, but she didn't. She's still the same, spending what she doesn't have, pretending to. Live a life that doesn't exist, and even charging me interest. Imagine that, charging her own son interest." "And how do you feel about it?" "Sad, but relieved," he said, glancing at Larissa, then at me. "I realized we don't have to accept toxic behavior just because it comes from family. Real family means respect and support. It's the people who stay by your side even when it hurts, like you did for us, even after Larissa hurt you." Larissa squeezed his hand. "We tried helping his mom. We offered to pay for a therapist, to get her financial counseling, but she refused. She said everything was under control. While in reality," Michael added, "she's sinking deeper into her own lies." My heart ached. For all the pain Eileen had caused me, all I felt now was pity. She was trapped in a prison of her own making, a cage built from pride and illusion. "And what about you two?" I asked the kids. Kyle spoke up. "Grandma Eileen didn't really care about us. She gave us expensive gifts, but she never asked what we liked in school, who our friends were, or what we dreamed about. Gifts can't replace love." Out of the mouth of a 15-year-old came a truth many adults never grasp. "You're both growing up so fast," I said with a smile. "That's because we have a good example," Julia answered. her eyes shining. That afternoon, we had lunch together, spaghetti with homemade tomato sauce. I taught Larissa how to make it from scratch. Afterward, we played Monopoly, and Julia, as always, won. We laughed, reminisced, and talked about everything and nothing. When they left, the sun was setting. I stood at the door, waving until their car disappeared around the corner. Then I returned to the porch, opened my old notebook, and wrote the final line on the last page. They once thought I was invisible, but I was the foundation of it all. And when the foundation shifts, everything falls, not to destroy, but to rebuild, stronger, truer, and more worthy. I closed the notebook. Life wasn't perfect. There were still bills, worries, and scars that hadn't fully healed. But now, I had something far more valuable: respect, understanding, and true love. Not the kind spoken in empty words, but the kind proven through action. My distribution company was thriving. Larissa had become an even better sales manager than I'd hoped. We were already discussing opening a new branch. My hair was still silver, my hands still rough, my house still modest, but I needed nothing more. Because I had what money could never buy: dignity, and a family that finally saw my true worth. That night, before bed, I received a message from Larissa. "Mom, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for teaching me, even when it hurt. Thank you for being the strongest woman I've ever known. I love you with all my heart." I replied simply, "I love you too, always." Then I slept peacefully. Looking back on everything I'd been through, I realized something. Sometimes we spend our whole lives searching for love and respect from others, forgetting that the way we treat ourselves and those we love is what truly defines our worth. Family isn't always perfect, but it's where we learn, forgive, and begin again. It took me many years to understand that love doesn't mean enduring everything, and strength doesn't mean hardening yourself. True strength is being able to say enough when it's time, and still keep kindness in your heart. And you? Have you ever had to stand up again after being hurt by the people you love most? What did you learn from it? Share your story in the comments, because maybe your words will warm someone's heart that's in need of a little hope. If you'd like to keep listening to stories about family, gratitude, and resilience, stay with me. Together, we'll keep walking this path one story at a time, one lesson at a time, with all the honesty of our hearts.